So pretty much every time I go on a trip, there's one tool that I use for every trip, and it helps me mostly with like eating and preparing food. But I'm just gonna do a really quick video on making that tool. It's really easy and it helps out so much. So for this tool, all you really need is a sapling. That's green wood sapling, about the size of your thumb and maybe about the length of this to start. You're gonna cut it down to the length you need. But just start off with something small. I got a good example right here. I'm gonna take the branch of this sapling off and use it for my tool. So that's about a good size right there. And if you noticed, when I was taking this apart, the green bark actually came off with it, which is really helpful because we're gonna be using this later on. So if you can go to that same tree and pull some of that bark that's still green and mendable off, then it's really going to help you out later on. Now, last but not least, you can take it from the same branch. It's totally fine. Find something, a stick that's about 3/4 the size of the stick you just got. So this one, pretty much pencil thin. I'm going to be using this. All right. So what you want to do with your larger piece is take it and split it down the middle so it separates like a duck bill. You want to make sure you have it right center, and then you can just go ahead and baton it with your hand. It should split pretty easy. Don't go all the way down. Split it about 3/4 of the way. And that's why this is important to use green wood, because if this was dry wood, that would have cracked, split all the way down, just what you don't want. So split about that far down, and then go ahead and pull your knife back out. And now this is where that smaller stick comes into play. Mine fell right here. So now take that smaller stick and just shove it down back to where your knife was at. Not too far, because you don't want to split it anymore. I'm gonna say, for mine, probably right about there is good. Yeah, right about there is good. So I got those little tails trimmed, so it's forcing that bill open and it's still flexible, as you can see. So now we can take those green bark pieces that you have. This one's a little wide, so I'm gonna go ahead and split it down the seam here to make for my cordage. Just take that bark and in sections, break up those fibers a little bit, and it makes it a lot more flexible, and it'll help it not snap under pressure. Now what you're really looking for in this wrap is to keep this piece in place, this back piece. So you're just kind of wrapping it kind of tight around it. Also helps to mitigate the splittage down here if you have a little bit more support. So you can just take this and do a bunch of wraps around that separator. Cut the rest off. Alright, so there you kind of got the base along, wrapped around the stick, and it's still, you can still pinch with it. So now that I got that made, I'm gonna go ahead. I gathered some kindling. I'm just gonna go ahead and heat treat that green wood to make it a lot stronger. So I'm gonna build up a nice bird's nest here and just go ahead and heat treat that. I figured why not? I'm not keeping it or anything, but it's always good to heat treat green wood. So I'm gonna make a big bird's nest. Luckily I have my fire kit with me, so I'm gonna be using a ferrocenium rod with my knife and some petroleum jelly and dryer lint as the tinder. Obviously a big bird's nest of thin sticks is the kindling. And then fuel, we're not going to need much fuel. So I got one stick right there that it'll do fine for fuel. Just going to start up right here on these bricks that I found. We should be good. What you want with this bird's nest is more of a taller base. So if you get it nice and tall, you'll be better off, because obviously heat travels up and that flame, as it rises, it's just gonna go higher and higher. So it's good to start off tall. Now really quick, I just want to show you what I do, how I can kind of control the flame. When I'm starting a fire like this and I don't have that many chances to actually get it started, say this is where my tinder's gonna be. I light my tinder and I like to have these two cross sticks with my bird's nest sitting on top of it. Therefore, when I get my bird's nest started here, I can lift up my bird's nest, hold it over the fire, and control the input and output of the actual flame itself. So that's the technique I'm going to use today. Now I'm kind of cheating a little bit because I'm using dryer lint and ferrocenium, but you kind of get the effect. I'm not actually coming out here and making a fire starting video. I wanted to make the video on the Bushcraft tool itself. So I'm just going to drop some dryer lint, petroleum jelly, and spark it up, and I'll show you what I'm talking about when I start that fire. Alright, so I'm going to do my best to keep my hands out of the shot. So, as promised, got my ferrocenium rod. Just put that right there. Petroleum jelly, little Burt's Bees. And in my fire kit, I always keep some dryer lint. Dryer lint is amazing tinder. Be sure to seal it up, not get it wet, because that'll definitely ruin the trip. So I'm just going to create a little bit more surface area with this dryer lint. A little more airflow through it. Make it a lot lighter, easier to take a spark. This will take a spark so easy in and of itself. I'm going to throw the petroleum jelly on it, just to kind of help that longer lasting flame. Not a whole bunch. Petroleum jelly in the winter, it's a lot tougher than it is in the summer. So it can kind of glob up on your tinder. But you just take that and pack it in there. Mix it up in. And call it good. So I got a really good bundle of tinder right there. And this brick is wet. Ideal situation, you don't want to put your bone dry tinder on this wet brick, but we're not in a dire situation. I'm like 5 minutes away from civilization. So I'm just going to go ahead and lay it down. Make sure there's no snow or water on my knife when I go to spark this thing, because I wouldn't want that to fly off and go straight into my tinder. So wipe off my knife. I'll give her a few sparks. Should spark up rather quickly. Alright, there it goes. Alright, so it's sparked up. Now I'm just going to use this nice and slow. Do not rush it. Hold this over top. Now I can hold it a little more above. Really control that flame. Starting to take some of that smaller stuff. Once I see it take all the way, I'm just gonna go ahead and set it down. Majority of it lit. This also helps a lot with the airflow. Alright, we got a solid flame going. I'm gonna go ahead and set it down now. Definitely a solid flame going. So I'm just gonna keep tending to that, give it a little O2. And just like that, you have really quick fire using a ferrocenium rod. Just gonna go ahead and feed this just a little bit of fuel. I don't want to get too carried away. I'm only heat treating this thing. I don't need a coal base or anything on this fire. So I have a decent fire built up already. So I can just go ahead and start heat treating this thing. It's definitely good around that cordage that you made to heat treat it. Not heat treat it too much, because it kind of gets rid of all those flyers that you had. And you can see them just really quickly burn off, which is what you want. And the idea behind this fire treatment is just strengthening the wood, taking some of that moisture out. You'll lose a little bit of your rigidity, but you'll gain it back the more you use it. So not too much to where it's on fire, obviously, but you just want to kind of take some of that moisture out of the wood, and it's going to make the tensile strength just a lot better. If I had another one of these, I could be using this to hold the pinchers and get it more into the fire and not so much my hands in the fire. So I'm just going to keep messing around with this, feeling it around. I can already feel it starting to get a lot stronger, and just the tensile strength just getting a lot better. Don't overdo it, because then that'll cause that split to go down all the way. Just nice and easy, take some of that moisture out. So just let me know if you like these kind of videos, because I really enjoy going out and doing bushcraft. I love taking bushcraft trips. I'm thinking about making a bushcraft camp in some public land where I'm living at right now. But I'd like to make a video coming up soon on fire, like primitive fire, fire with a ferrocenium rod, a magnesium and ferro rod, just stuff like that. It's a lot of fun to do, just to go out in the woods, do some bushcraft, make stupid stuff that you would use out in the wilderness.